The boy is 15, but he looks several years younger. I imagine him climbing down out of the public bus and trudging up the hill. His name is Ren. He has made this 4-hour pilgrimage south from his inland home to the coastal town of Otsuchi, Japan, where the recent earthquake and tsunami swept the town to rubble. That was 5 years ago now at this point, but the town is still in various stages of recovery. Ren passes a fat gray tree trunk face down in an abandoned foundation, its roots grasping the air. On the corner at the top of the street, enormous metal creatures doze over a new home's half-built wall, their operators gone home for dinner. Finally, he locates the house that he's heard about. A white telephone booth, incongruous relic of 1950s Britain, sprouts from the garden among pine trees and waving bulrushes. Inside, a rotary phone squats on the shelf. It's disconnected, no wires in, no wires out. Ren enters and dials the number that used to belong to his father's cell phone. A trucker by trade, the father's route had taken him into this area when the ocean leapt ashore and sucked him out of the world. For a minute, Ren stands still, except for the tic that seizes his facial muscles in an occasional blink. The air inside the earpiece emits a steady hush, like a seashell. The boy begins to talk. "Why did it have to be you?" he says, blink. "I've always wondered why I'm different from everyone else." Blink. "I want to talk with you again." The owner of the house, Itaru Sasaki, originally installed the booth as a place to go to grieve a cousin whose death he was struggling to come to terms with. Perched on a blustery overlook, Sasaki named it the wind telephone because what was said there got carried on the wind. After the tsunami, word about the phone booth began to spread, and in the years since, thousands of strangers from all over Japan have been turning up to talk to their deceased loved ones. Eventually, a Japanese TV station got permission to document some of these conversations with a mic in the booth and a camera a discreet distance away. What kinds of things do people say on the wind telephone? Never "I love you," too direct in Japanese culture, but words that mean the same thing. Are you eating? Are you staying warm? Come back. I'm building a house for us. Some people fib that they're doing fine out of the common belief that the living must free the dead from earthly concerns so they don't get stuck in a kind of Buddhist limbo after death. Others express regret. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you." One father tells his young son that he wants to hear him say "Papa" again. One woman just stands with her ear pressed to the receiver, tears sliding down her face. I love the idea of this portal of communication to the ones we long for and miss so intensely. Clearly, it has fed a need in Japan. When I heard about Sasaki's booth, it occurred to me that this day, All Saints' Day, is sort of like our wind telephone, only in time rather than space. It's the wind telephone of the Christian liturgical calendar. It reminds us that those we've lost hover around us like a great cloud of witnesses. It invites us to speak to them in our prayers and in whatever other way makes sense to us. But of course, in celebrating our saints in this Sunday service, we bring our wind telephone into a communal setting. We remember and grieve and pray together, even if it's on Zoom. It's not an easy day, particularly for those of us whose losses are especially great or especially fresh. At every church I've served, some folks have taken a pass on All Saints Sunday, which is absolutely okay. We each get to choose what's helpful or not helpful for our mourning. At the same time, I also appreciate All Saints Day because it pushes back on our wider culture that wants to stuff grief down in this relentless dash towards productivity and away from mortality. It can be healing to pause and allow those losses out, to name and acknowledge them in community, to bear witness to them and one another. Blessed are those who mourn, Jesus says in today's gospel, the Sermon on the Mount, for they will be comforted. Of course, this statement is in part a promise about how fortune will turn in God's coming kingdom. But maybe there's a wisdom in its face value meaning as well. In my experience, God often comes to us in the knowing and sharing of each other's burdens. We bring our grief into one another's company because we do find comfort there. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. The rest of Ren's story offers a good example of this, I think. Evidently, it's helpful to talk to his dead father on the wind telephone because days later he returns with his mom and younger siblings. His middle school-age sister makes him stay in the booth with her. She hasn't said a word to anyone about her father since he died 5 years ago. For that matter, the family as a whole has not had a single conversation about him. But when she picks up the phone, the dam of silence bursts. She starts to cry so hard you can barely make out her sentences, which skitter from the ordinary to the profound and back in a rush of words. I'm so sorry I used to say you were stinky. What happened to your promise to buy me a violin? Now I'll have to buy one myself. She tells her father about her upcoming tennis tournament, about the boy band she follows, and on and on. When it's the mother's turn, she closes herself into the booth alone. She says, where should I start? I feel like you're still alive somewhere. We had so many things we wanted to do together. And then later, come back, we'll be waiting. Outside the booth, the family has their first real conversation about their loss. They tell the youngest boy that it's okay if he wants to cry and let his feelings out. And then the mother reflects, we were all about to fall apart. We were so broken. We didn't think we could make it through. And maybe that's why we never talked about Dad until now. But talking to him on the phone today, it changed something. Friends, may your All Saints Day be blessed, and may this ritual of remembrance and grief indeed change something. Amen.